Hello and welcome. Aliens in America. It doesn't automatically sound like the title of a show that promotes peace, love and understanding. But those three words in the opening theme music are ultimately the goals of the musician who recorded them. He's been called the Bono of South Asia ever since he played with the region's most successful rock band, Junoon. Salman Ahmed has faced a number of challenges along the way, from religious conservatives in his native Pakistan, who argue that music is forbidden in Islam, to bigotry in the West, leading him to produce the documentary Muslims in America, It's My Country Too, following the 9/11 attacks. Salman, good to talk with you.
Good to be here.
Let me ask you this, ever since 9/11, it's been a mission for you to try to promote a better understanding of Muslims in the USA. How is that going?
Once you have kids, I've got three boys, your perspective on life changes, and the projects you pick up are all about, how does it affect my kids? What will my kids think? So after 9/11, I thought about that. I have three boys in school in America, and being a Muslim American, I've sort of, gone on this sort of pilgrimage across America in colleges, talking about what Islam means to me, what it means to play music as a Muslim musician. And this show that came out of the blue, Aliens in America, is something that my kids said, you have to do this.
And of course the title song, which you've recorded with PJ Olson, is What's So Funny About Peace, Love and Understanding? So I wonder in what way this show is going to promote peace, love and understanding.
I've heard many historians say that the way understanding comes is through jarring interaction. And this show has got an edge. It's politically incorrect, and the character in there, one of the characters, the main characters, is a Pakistani Raja, exchange student, and him coming. It reminds me a lot when I came to the States. I was 11 years old, come from a culture which didn't know any rock and roll. And so I want to see how the show develops. I think it's got a unique perspective on it.
We should explain to the viewers the story is the idea that a young American lad has an exchange student come to live with him. They think the exchange student is going to be this like Viking blonde, sort of macho man, and it turns out it's a sort of small, Pakistani boy who's very wise, but very, he's in traditional clothes, as shalwar kameez and everything else, but he's a little out of place.
And he arrives at the airport saying, "Praise be to Allah,"
which in this day and age, of course.
And a lot of people at the airport. It's an interesting exchange. And the show is going to be on every Monday night on October 1st. Begins October 1st.
Well, let's take a look at a scene from Aliens in America.
Class, today I'm going to put aside our lesson because we have a special guest. For 1 year, we will be in the presence of a real live Pakistani who practices Muslimism. That means we have the opportunity to learn about his culture and he about ours. So let's begin a dialogue. Raja, you are so different from us. How does that feel?
I am not sure I understand.
Think about it. How does everyone else feel about Raja and his differences? Yeah, Stephanie.
Well, I guess I feel angry because his people blew up the buildings in New York.
Oh, that's good.
But that is not true.
Okay, Raja, in America, you have to wait until you're called on, and I'd appreciate a raised hand. Okay, now who else is angry at Raja?
Now, there are a lot of critics who say, though, that the problem with a show like this is it presents Americans as bigoted and stupid. Now, what danger is there of going the other way, of actually, over swinging the pendulum so you start making Americans the target?
Riz, that's an interesting question, a difficult one. I think the way the world is right now, so polarized, the fact that you're able to have two cultures, Muslim and American, on the screen, and it's edgy, and it's not, it's not polite. I think you're going to have an audience which is going to be pulled in by that plot, and then you hope that the show's content is good enough that people get hooked onto it.
Now, how do you expect American audiences to react to it, though? I mean, by and large, you know America well. You've traveled around. You grew up here. You actually have almost lived that dichotomy that young Raja Musharraf goes through.
I'm the alter ego of Raja Musharraf.
So, in terms of that experience of having been a Pakistani boy who grew up in America, went back as well, came backwards and forwards, how do you think Americans will react to it?
I think Americans in general love the underdog, and this kid's character, the Pakistani kid's character, is of someone who initially they're afraid of because of the terror word and where he comes from and what he believes in. but also he's got a humanity, you know, and that's my experience too. I came in straddling being uncool and trying to be cool, you know, and in my business, music business, that you're always finding what's cool and what's uncool. So I think that the people who are going to watch this with an open mind will find an endearing character in Raja Musharraf.
Now this is what one of the producers had to say about the series.
To see a Muslim character in a comedy in particular. One, he's portrayed very positively in the piece, which is something that was both what we wanted to do creatively and what we felt was the right thing to do, because we just have not seen a Muslim character like this in a comedy so far. And I think the audience was really excited to see a character in a comedy. There's something about comedy that's just inclusive.
Now, I know you're one of those who quite rightly advocates there should be much more of a moderate Muslim voice out there, countering the extremists. And I wonder, you know, here obviously a bit of comedy and, as you say, a little bit of political incorrectness and edginess is helping to promote some open-minded thought. But when it comes to the Muslim community, how do you think there can be a kickstart to the moderate voice?
Well, look, you know, 9/11 put the Muslim community under a big media microscope. And the one thing that either the two things they could have done was run away or confront it. And I think more and more Muslims, I mean, personally, that's what I found is the best way is to put yourself out there. Say, yes, I am proud to be Muslim, and you know, I love rock and roll as well. And let's have a dialogue. And I find there's a great curiosity in America. I teach a Sufi music class at Queens College in New York City. And the students there are so interested in Sufi music, Qawwali, Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, and I think that's right across the board.
So the media, as you say, the media itself, in the case of this Aliens in America, can be a great vehicle, presumably, for mainstream America, because they are going to tune into this as opposed to trying to tune into specialist programs and so on, yeah?
Riz, you know, look what the Cosby Show did. It introduced African American culture to African Americans as well as mainstream America. And you hope that that's the same thing along that line. You'll have you know, a show like Aliens in America that'll introduce Raja Musharraf as a Muslim Pakistani kid, not only to the mainstream American community, but to Muslim Americans.
Well, let's get a couple of emails we got in, because there's actually a lot going on in your life apart from the show and the theme tune you recorded, relating to your other life, so to speak, or your other lives. One that came in regarding HIV/AIDS. This was from Junoon in Ramallah, in the Palestinian territories. What difficulties have you encountered while trying to spread awareness about HIV/AIDS in South Asia?
Well, as everybody knows, if you talk about safe sex in Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, it's the best way to clear a room, you know. So you have to find creative ways of humanizing people who live with HIV and AIDS. And what I did was I shot a video called Al-Vida, which is everywhere on YouTube, and it focuses on the life of a woman from Lahore who was HIV positive, but became an activist after her husband died of AIDS. And that I've got amazing feedback from colleges, from NGOs, from people, mainstream South Asia, where I think that you have to take a culturally sensitive approach in countries. You can't sort of take what works in Thailand or Africa or the West. You have to find a different way of communicating, and that's what I've tried to do. Music video, use music and video to get across HIV/AIDS messages.
And of course, with Junoon, you were actually crossing a lot of boundaries and thresholds. You played in India. You were crossing the sort of Indo-Pak barrier that occurred. There's a question actually that came in from Ketan in New Delhi in India, who says, any chance of Junoon reunion? Are you working on anything new with your former bandmates?
Well, that's a question that I get asked all the time, and I tell them, well, look, if you saw Live 8 and you look at all the reunions that are happening, Pink Floyd got together after 16 years, and the Police are playing after 23 years, so there's hope out there.
The Rolling Stones never even split up.
Yeah, there you go.
Also the other thing is you're going off to perform in Israel, which is the first time for a Pakistani musician.
Yeah, totally.
Where did that idea come about from?
I spoke last year at the Clinton Global Initiative, and I spoke about the need to use music, films, and television in promoting peace and understanding. And One Voice movement is supported by Palestinians and Israelis, by people like Bill Clinton, Queen Rania. The performance is going to be shown both in Palestine and Israel and elsewhere. And in the audience, you're going to have Palestinians and Israelis as well. And the fact that both the governments, only a couple of days ago I read that Prime Minister Olmert and Mahmoud Abbas are getting together to talk about it in Ramzan, you know. So I mean, aside from all of this, Riz, I also, you know, I read Islamic history, and you know, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he chose the Sulh Hudaybiyah, which was a compromise, you know, which was a peace compromise. We said we'll have 10 years of peace between Muslims and the Quraysh. And I think that's what you need in Israel and Palestine. You need to say, well, you know, 60 years we fought, and you know, there's hatred and misery. Let's try having peace for 10 years and see what happens.
Now, this question that came in regarding that from Ray in Texas in the US. If you go to Israel to perform, will you also go to Palestine? And what has the reaction been to your upcoming performance in Israel?
Yeah, you know, there's actually on the same day, 2 shows happening, one in Jericho and one in Tel Aviv. And me being a Muslim and a Pakistani and you know, and an American, I think it makes sense for me to go to Tel Aviv and play there. You know, I can always play amongst Muslims, I always do, but I have no problem at all playing anywhere in the world.
You know, I want to get one more question into you regarding you as a Muslim musician, because this, of course, it's quite relevant to a lot of people. From Sophia in Washington, D.C. It says, what do you think is keeping more Muslims from being artists and entertainers, especially in the West? What's the hardest part of being a musician?
I think, you know, it has to do with your market. Like, for example, Shah Rukh Khan's market is Bollywood. He's the king of Bollywood. So maybe that's why he doesn't come to Hollywood, you know, and also the language. This song that I've done, What's So Funny About Peace, Love and Understanding, is my way of actually finding out, you know, how people take a Muslim artist singing a Western pop song for peace, you know. So I think these are early days, but if you have success, it opens up doors.
Are you finding that, you know, in your career, you know, you essentially remind people that you are American as well as being Pakistani? Sure. You are American. Are you finding that, you know, the 6 years that have passed since the attacks of 9/11, that, you know, that the attitude is starting to change? Are you feeling you're making a dent in your mission?
You know, I feel that going across colleges and the interest at Queen's College that I have, you know, I mean, my students are from everywhere. It's a mini United Nations in Queens, as you know. And their interest in Islam, their interest in Qawwali, in Rumi. For example, this was the 800th birthday of Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi, and I did a whole class devoted to Rumi's poetry and the whirling dervish. Now they had no idea. They knew about whirling dervishes, but they didn't know that it was associated with Maulana Rumi. So there's a great interest amongst young people in high schools and in colleges. And if the political establishment also can pick up on this, and the mainstream media can pick up on this, then, you know, you have a dialogue happening.
Now, you say mainstream media, but it seems the younger generation is very internet savvy. Well, of course it is internet savvy, but it's also very internet dependent now, rather than television and mainstream as we, or at least my generation thought of it. Are you finding that you're having to adopt a much more you know, pragmatic approach to using the internet, using YouTube, as you said, your materials on YouTube, you know?
You know, Riz, absolutely. When I say mainstream media now, I'm talking about YouTube, MySpace, Facebook, and now, you know, all of my music, you know, which before had to be physically brought from South Asia, it's on this open music website called magnatune.com, which
Magnatune.
Magnatune.
M-A-G-N-A.
Yeah.
Magnatune,
yeah, and it's on there for anybody to go up and download. And the amazing thing about this is they tell the listener that you decide what you want to pay for it. You know, which is revolutionary. You got no record companies in between. You got no agents, or it's just the artist and the audience. The main thing is to put it out there.
That's,
you know?
very trusting.
Well, you hope that, you know, right now what's happening is there's a free fall in the music business. People aren't paying for music, so you figure, okay, if you follow this artist and you think he's worth listening to, what would you pay for him? You know.
What have you been finding as far as response? What's been the
Well, I've just been launched on magnatune.com 2 days ago.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that the loyalty that the fans have, they do want to pay. You know, I think if you have I have a 15-year following, you know, and I know that those kids want to have access to the music and they do want to pay for it, but they don't want to pay £20 or $20 for a CD. So if they can afford, if they're going to school and high school and college, if they can spend $5, that's fine.
After such an incredible success with Junoon, I mean, really, you're massively successful. What sort of pressure was there on you to deliver something of that magnitude? Or have you felt? I mean, you said with your 3 sons now, you're very much focused on what affects their lives. Are you finding pressure on you as a performer, as a musician, and so on?
No, there's no pressure on me. But I'm very aware that my kids are going to school, and whatever I do in the public sphere impacts them. So I think about that. You know, I don't think there's a pressure, but I probably 10 years ago, if they said, "Hey, there's a sitcom, and do you want to do a comedy tune?" I would have said, "Maybe not. It's uncool." But now it's like your son tells you, "Dad, I want you to do that song." So
Yes, you do it.
You do it.
What was actually, going through that process? What was interesting? What was different about doing that particular, that project?
You know, it's incredible. I got a call from CBS about 10 days ago, and I literally had 2 days to listen to the tune. I flew into Burbank Studios, went into the studio, spent the whole day recording the song, and even we shot a video while we were recording the song. I've never recorded a song like this. But the energy of it, I think that's what we did manage to get into the song, was the energy, me, PJ, and we were goofing around with the drums and the guitars, and they've made a music video for it now.
That's with PJ Olson, of course.
PJ Olson, yeah, it was a CBS artist.
So where does it go for you from here? Now, you've got obviously things in mind. You always keep yourself busy. The HIV/AIDS ambassador work you do for the UN. You've got your projects, documentaries and things. You got involved with that, promoting the positive side of Islam. What is it in particular you want to do? Where will it go from here?
I'm doing a project right now which is interconnected. Writing a book, which is part memoir, and part it talks to Muslim Americans and the mainstream American community, and I'm writing an album along with it, so that you have a book and a CD. And that's how I always got into artists. I love reading about Beatles and Led Zeppelin and Santana. So that's what I'm doing. Yeah.
And collaborations too, Deepak Chopra as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Deepak's been a huge support, and the book idea is his, really. He said, you should write a book. And I said, okay, I need to find enough hours in the day where I can do this. But now I've sat myself down, and I'm writing it. And hopefully, if the book comes out, half decent, we might think of doing another one after that.
All right. Well, listen, we're going to keep an eye out for you. And of course, if this Aliens in America takes off, by the next time we talk, it may be a show called Integrated in America or something like that. Salman, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good talking
Thank you,
with
Riz.
All right. Take care.
Take care, bro.
Thank you. Well, that's it for this show. Thanks for being with us. Don't forget, if you have any thoughts about pressing issues around the world, do send your emails to riz@aljazeera.net. We'll see you next time. Street Talk is coming up next.
Cool. Would you be able to put the magazine.com?
Yeah, we'll put it up as a...